You're listening to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, created to help you succeed in your educational journey. Learn more at baremetalcyber.com, where additional prepcasts, books, and training materials await. Let's get started. Enablement in agile contexts is about deliberately choosing the right mechanism to close a capability gap. Training, coaching, and mentoring are complementary tools, but their effectiveness depends on applying them in the right context. Training is best suited for transferring knowledge quickly and systematically. Coaching helps improve in-role performance and judgment by guiding reflection and structured practice. Mentoring provides perspective and advice over longer horizons, helping people navigate career transitions and organizational landscapes. The orientation here is clarity. Leaders and teams must know which lever to pull, based on the type of gap, urgency, and risk profile. Misapplying methods wastes time, erodes trust, and produces little improvement. Done well, enablement accelerates growth, improves delivery, and sustains motivation by ensuring that people receive the support they need in the form that fits best. The challenge is not whether to invest in enablement, but how to apply it with precision. The enablement triad begins with clear definitions. Training is structured knowledge transfer designed to build foundational understanding, often through courses, workshops, or modules. Coaching is inquiry-led and focused on helping individuals improve performance within their current role by surfacing options, clarifying goals, and refining decision-making. Mentoring is relationship-based, where a more experienced individual shares insights, stories, and networks to help someone navigate broader horizons and career development. Each plays a distinct role, and none is superior in all contexts. For example, training may teach the basics of a new programming language, coaching may help someone apply it effectively under project constraints, and mentoring may provide advice on how mastering the language fits into long-term career goals. By distinguishing the three, organizations avoid treating them as interchangeable and instead apply them in ways that maximize their respective strengths. A taxonomy of learning outcomes helps ensure that the right enablement approach is chosen for the right kind of gap. Knowledge outcomes, such as recalling facts, vocabulary, or concepts, are best addressed by training. Skill outcomes demonstrating proficiency through practice benefit most from coaching and structured repetition. Judgment outcomes deciding wisely in complex, ambiguous contexts require coaching and mentoring, since they are shaped by reflection, dialogue, and exposure to experience. For example, learning the steps of a security compliance framework is a knowledge outcome, practicing audits is a skill outcome, and deciding which controls to prioritize under pressure is a judgment outcome. By separating outcomes into knowledge, skill, and judgment, leaders and teams can avoid mismatches such as using training alone to try to improve judgment. Instead, the taxonomy provides a map for aligning method with need, ensuring that enablement produces the intended change. Decision criteria make enablement more precise by weighing the severity of the gap, the urgency of improvement, the risks of errors, and the opportunity costs involved. A severe gap in foundational knowledge under time pressure calls for structured training to build a baseline quickly. A moderate skill deficit where mistakes carry medium risk might call for coaching with deliberate practice. A judgment challenge with high stakes and no obvious right answer may call for mentoring, drawing on the experience of someone who has navigated similar situations. For instance, if a product launch is imminent and the team lacks specific compliance knowledge, training is urgent. If a developer struggles with test-driven development, coaching provides guided practice. If a new leader faces organizational politics, mentoring helps anticipate pitfalls. Decision criteria prevent guesswork, ensuring that enablement is both timely and proportionate to context. Readiness assessments check whether prerequisites for enablement are in place. Without readiness, even well-designed programs fail. 4 factors matter most: baseline knowledge, psychological safety, practice opportunities, and time availability. If someone lacks basic literacy in a topic, coaching cannot succeed until training fills the gap. If psychological safety is absent, feedback and reflection will be resisted. If real opportunities to practice are unavailable, skills will remain theoretical. If time is not reserved, learning will be crowded out by urgent tasks. For example, coaching a facilitator who never actually runs meetings is ineffective. Similarly, training a developer without access to a practice environment yields little growth. Readiness checks ensure that investments in enablement are not wasted. By confirming conditions up front, organizations increase the likelihood of meaningful improvement and signal respect for both the learner and the resources being used. Context signals provide clues about which type of enablement to emphasize. Adopting a new framework often requires training to establish shared vocabulary and understanding. Hitting a performance plateau suggests coaching, where reflection and guided practice help break through stagnation. Career inflection points, such as moving into leadership, are ideal times for mentoring, where experience-based counsel accelerates adjustment. Leaders and peers can recognize these patterns and respond accordingly. For example, when an agile team transitions to DevOps practices, initial training in tools is essential, but sustained coaching ensures the practices stick. Later, mentoring from someone who has navigated similar transformations can help guide cultural shifts. By tuning into context signals, organizations make enablement proactive rather than reactive, delivering the right type of support when it is most needed and impactful. The leader's role in enablement is to provide sponsorship, access, and guardrails without prescribing solutions. Leaders make enablement possible by funding programs, providing time, and connecting people with coaches or mentors. They also set guardrails by clarifying boundaries, such as ethical standards or confidentiality commitments, that keep enablement safe and professional. However, leaders must resist the temptation to dominate the process by prescribing answers, as this undermines ownership and growth. Instead, they create the conditions under which others can learn and adapt effectively. For example, a leader may allocate time for retrospectives and provide a skilled coach, but they should not dictate the outcomes of the coaching. By focusing on enablement as stewardship rather than control, leaders empower individuals and teams to develop judgment and resilience in ways that sustain long-term capability. Measurement frameworks provide evidence that enablement is working. Leading indicators include practice frequency, independence milestones, and feedback uptake. Lagging indicators include improvements in quality metrics, flow stability, and stakeholder satisfaction. For example, a learner practicing code reviews weekly and gradually moving from supervised to independent reviews shows progress on leading indicators. A decline in escaped defects over time demonstrates impact on lagging indicators. Without measurement, enablement risks being reduced to attendance counts or anecdotal impressions. By tracking both leading and lagging signals, organizations can validate that capability is growing and that performance outcomes are improving. Measurement also reinforces motivation as learners see tangible proof of progress. Over time, these frameworks turn enablement from a well-meaning initiative into a data-informed discipline, ensuring that resources are invested wisely and outcomes are both visible and credible. Equity and access commitments ensure that enablement opportunities are distributed fairly. Without intentional design, programs may unintentionally reinforce privilege, favoring those who already have access to networks or visibility. Equity requires proactive outreach, inclusive pairing, and attention to representation across roles and backgrounds. For example, mentoring programs should include diverse mentors to avoid narrowing perspectives, and coaching should be available to frontline contributors as well as managers. Access also means providing materials in multiple formats: written, recorded, live to meet different needs. When equity and access are prioritized, enablement strengthens the entire organization rather than widening gaps. It signals that growth is a shared entitlement, not a selective reward. This fairness builds trust and motivation, ensuring that people engage fully with development opportunities. Over time, equity in enablement produces not only stronger individuals but also more cohesive, resilient teams. Ethical boundaries protect the integrity of coaching, mentoring, and training. Confidentiality ensures that what is shared in a coaching session is not misused. Conflict of interest guidelines prevent situations where a mentor also serves as a performance evaluator, which could compromise candor. Scope limits keep coaching and mentoring professional, avoiding drift into areas such as therapy or personal counseling beyond expertise. For example, if a coachee raises personal challenges that extend beyond professional scope, the coach may suggest external support while keeping workplace discussions focused. These boundaries build trust, allowing participants to engage fully without fear of misuse or overreach. Ethical guidelines also protect organizations by ensuring that enablement remains professional, respectful, and safe. By codifying these principles, programs signal seriousness and responsibility, reinforcing credibility and sustainability in development efforts. Feedback loops and review cadence keep enablement alive beyond single sessions. Without ongoing cycles of observation, reflection, and adjustment, learning stalls. Regular reviews provide moments to assess progress, refine methods, and celebrate growth. For example, after a coaching cycle, the coach and coachee may review what has improved, what remains challenging, and what new goals should be set. These loops prevent development from fading into background noise and ensure that learning compounds over time. They also create accountability, as commitments are revisited and updated. Review cadence aligns enablement with agile principles, embedding improvement into a rhythm rather than treating it as sporadic intervention. By maintaining feedback loops, organizations ensure that capability building remains dynamic, adaptive, and cumulative, strengthening both skills and confidence over the long term. Backlog integration makes enablement visible and actionable. By converting development activities into backlog items with owners, time boxes, and acceptance criteria, teams ensure that growth is treated as real work, not an afterthought. For example, a backlog item might specify that a team member will run 3 supervised test sessions before moving to independence. Acceptance criteria provide clarity, while ownership ensures accountability. This integration also links enablement to product outcomes, reinforcing that capability building is not separate from delivery but essential to it. By making growth visible in the same tools and rhythms as other work, organizations legitimize investment in learning. It also ensures that capacity for development is protected rather than squeezed out by urgent tasks. Backlog integration transforms enablement from optional extra into a disciplined, transparent part of team operations. Sequencing patterns increase efficiency by combining methods. Often, the fastest path to capability involves layering training, coaching, and mentoring in sequence. For example, a team adopting a new framework may begin with training to establish vocabulary, continue with coaching to apply practices in real work, and benefit from mentoring to contextualize the journey over time. Sequencing prevents wasted effort by ensuring that learners have the right foundation before advancing to reflection and guidance. It also makes growth more motivating, as individuals can see progress in steps rather than facing overwhelming leaps. Leaders who design sequencing patterns ensure that development is coherent and cumulative, rather than fragmented. This approach mirrors how people naturally learn, acquire knowledge, practice it, and then contextualize it. Sequencing turns the triad of training, coaching, and mentoring into a powerful, integrated growth system. Remote and hybrid enablement adapts these practices for distributed teams. Asynchronous materials, recorded practice sessions, and written reflections extend accessibility across time zones and schedules. For example, the coachee might record themselves facilitating a virtual meeting, with the coach later providing annotated feedback. Training modules can be recorded and revisited, while mentoring sessions may be supplemented with asynchronous exchanges of reflections and resources. These adaptations ensure that distance does not translate into exclusion. They also create durable artifacts of learning which can be reused and revisited. Remote enablement requires intentional design, but it ensures that capability growth remains equitable and effective across distributed contexts. By embedding inclusive practices, organizations sustain motivation and trust, proving that enablement is accessible to everyone, regardless of geography or circumstance. Anti-patterns highlight what to avoid in enablement. Advice dumping turns mentoring into one-way lectures, undermining reflection and ownership. Training theater delivers slides without practice, creating the illusion of learning without capability. Guru dependence centralizes decision-making in a single expert, fostering reliance rather than growth. These anti-patterns erode motivation and distort outcomes. Correcting them requires reinforcing inquiry and coaching, embedding practice in training, and broadening perspectives in mentoring. For example, mentors must balance sharing with listening, and trainers must design exercises alongside content. Organizations must also encourage distributed capability, avoiding over-reliance on one figure. By naming and addressing anti-patterns, programs preserve credibility and effectiveness. This vigilance ensures that enablement is authentic, not performative, and that investments in growth genuinely strengthen individuals and teams. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other prepcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. An intake and triage process ensures that enablement requests are routed to the right method based on evidence, not preference. Without structure, individuals may default to what feels most comfortable, asking for mentoring when training is needed, or pursuing training when coaching would address the issue faster. Intake begins with clarifying the goal. What capability must improve, by when, and with what consequences if it does not. Triage then examines whether the gap is knowledge, skill, or judgment. For example, if someone lacks basic vocabulary in cloud security, training is appropriate. If they know the concepts but struggle to apply them under pressure, coaching is needed. If they are considering long-term career moves in the field, mentoring is the right path. Structured intake prevents wasted effort and creates transparency, ensuring that resources are directed to the most fitting and impactful development path. Learning contracts translate triage decisions into clear agreements between learner and enabler. Contracts specify goals, evidence of progress, cadence of sessions, and confidentiality norms. For example, a coaching contract might state, Goal: facilitate retrospectives independently. Evidence: 3 successful sessions observed with feedback. Cadence: bi-weekly for 6 weeks. Confidentiality: conversations not shared without consent. Contracts set expectations for both sides, reducing ambiguity and building trust. They also protect psychological safety by ensuring confidentiality is respected, allowing honest reflection without fear. Review dates included in contracts make progress visible and provide natural checkpoints for renewal or closure. Learning contracts transform abstract intentions into concrete commitments, ensuring accountability and clarity. They demonstrate respect for the learner's time and the organization's investment, making enablement structured, measurable, and safe. Curriculum design principles determine whether training translates into capability or fades as information overload. Effective curricula favor concise, context-rich content rather than long slide decks. Spaced repetition reinforces retention by revisiting key concepts over time. Retrieval practice testing recall rather than passive review cements knowledge into long-term memory. For example, a curriculum on agile facilitation may provide a short module on core techniques, followed by practice sessions and review quizzes spread over weeks. This design contrasts with marathon workshops that overwhelm learners with trivia and little application. Contextual examples drawn from actual work ensure relevance, making learning easier to apply. Well-designed curricula respect cognitive limits while maximizing retention and transfer. They also set the stage for coaching and mentoring by giving learners the foundation they need before reflection or advice can take root. Curriculum design turns training into durable capability rather than temporary exposure. Practice scaffolding bridges the gap between theory and independent competence. It begins with structured exercises, such as cadence, labs, or simulations, where risks are low and feedback is immediate. Learners then progress to apprenticeships, working alongside experts on real tasks with supervision. Finally, they take on authentic work independently, building confidence and capability. For example, a new tester may start with guided exercises and automation, then shadow experienced colleagues during live testing, and eventually lead test execution with support nearby. Scaffolding ensures that growth is gradual and safe, preventing learners from being overwhelmed while still challenging them to stretch. It mirrors natural learning progression: observation, practice with feedback, and independent performance. By designing scaffolding deliberately, organizations accelerate skill transfer and reduce the risk of costly mistakes. Practice scaffolding sustains motivation by making progress visible and achievable at each stage. Observation in the work ensures that enablement is grounded in authentic data. Watching individuals perform real tasks reveals nuances that cannot be captured in simulations or recollections. For example, observing a developer handle a live code review shows how they explain reasoning, respond to questions, and manage time insights missed in roleplay. Feedback based on real observation is more credible, as it connects directly to current challenges. It also helps avoid misalignment, since improvement is tied to the exact context where performance matters. Observation makes feedback specific, actionable, and immediately relevant. It also builds accountability, as progress can be measured against real-world benchmarks. This approach integrates learning into delivery, demonstrating that development is not separate from work but part of it. Observation in the work strengthens enablement by ensuring that growth reflects the realities of the system and tasks at hand. Deliberate practice shifts development from occasional workshops to steady skill accrual. Short, frequent repetitions paired with immediate feedback are far more effective than long, infrequent sessions. For example, practicing facilitation openings for 10 minutes daily with quick critique builds competence faster than a single hour-long workshop. Deliberate practice focuses on one aspect at a time, such as clarity of communication or handling interruptions, preventing overload. It also emphasizes feedback loops, ensuring that each attempt builds on the last. This rhythm makes growth sustainable and visible, encouraging persistence. Deliberate practice requires discipline, but it transforms capability building into a continuous habit rather than a one-off event. Over time, it compounds into significant improvement, turning small efforts into mastery. This approach mirrors how musicians or athletes train, demonstrating that professional skills are built the same way, through structured repetition and reflection. Capability models provide a shared language for assessing growth. These models define observable behaviors at different levels, making expectations explicit. For example, a facilitation capability model might describe a beginner as co-leading with guidance, an intermediate as leading independently, and an advanced practitioner as mentoring others. Such clarity prevents subjective or inconsistent assessments. It also helps coaches and mentors design targeted plans, focusing on the next milestone rather than vague improvement. Learners benefit from visibility into what progress looks like and how to achieve it. Capability models also align enablement with organizational needs, ensuring that growth supports strategic objectives. They allow measurement frameworks to be consistent across individuals and teams, providing transparency. By codifying expectations, capability models make development structured and equitable. They turn abstract goals into clear pathways, motivating learners and guiding enablers. Mentor matching and cross-team programs expand perspective and prevent insularity. Matching pairs individuals not only based on technical alignment, but also on complementary experiences and communication styles. For example, pairing a junior developer with a mentor from another team exposes them to new approaches and reduces the risk of groupthink. Cross-team mentoring also breaks down silos, spreading knowledge and building empathy across organizational boundaries. These programs create opportunities for mentees to learn from diverse contexts and for mentors to refine their guidance skills. Structured matching ensures the relationships are purposeful and balanced, rather than dependent on informal networks that may reinforce bias. Over time, cross-team mentoring strengthens cultural cohesion as insights and practices flow between groups. It also broadens individual horizons, equipping mentees with perspectives that help them navigate complex, interconnected environments. Rotations and shadowing provide structured exposure to adjacent roles. These experiences accelerate cross-skilling and build empathy for neighboring constraints. For example, a developer shadowing an on-call operations shift learns firsthand about the importance of monitoring and resilience. Rotations allow individuals to take on temporary roles, broadening their skills and understanding. Shadowing provides insight without full responsibility, easing learners into new contexts. Both practices reinforce collective ownership, as team members appreciate the challenges others face. They also build resilience, since more people can step into critical roles when needed. Rotations and shadowing must be designed with support, ensuring that learners have guidance and safe boundaries. When implemented thoughtfully, these practices create flexible, empathetic teams capable of adapting to shifting priorities and demands. They turn enablement into a team-wide endeavor, distributing capability broadly and equitably. Enablement platforms centralize resources to make learning reusable and accessible. Playbooks, exemplars, decision logs, and curated libraries allow learners to reinforce lessons without relying solely on one-to-one sessions. For example, a facilitation playbook might provide agenda templates, annotated recordings, and troubleshooting guides. Centralized platforms reduce redundancy, ensuring that lessons learned in one context are available to all. They also support asynchronous development, enabling learners to access materials when needed. Platforms increase the scalability of enablement, allowing organizations to grow capability without overburdening mentors and coaches. They also provide a record of institutional knowledge, preserving insights beyond individual relationships. By investing in enablement platforms, organizations democratize access to learning, making development discoverable and sustainable across the workforce. These platforms amplify the impact of training, coaching, and mentoring by embedding resources into daily work. ROI measurement ensures that enablement is treated as a strategic investment rather than a discretionary extra. Instead of tracking attendance counts or course completions, ROI focuses on improvements in flow and quality. Metrics such as cycle time stability, defect reduction, and independent review rates provide evidence of impact. For example, if defect rates drop after coaching on testing practices, ROI is clear. Linking enablement to delivery outcomes reassures stakeholders that resources are well spent. It also strengthens the case for sustaining and expanding programs. ROI measurement prevents programs from drifting into ritual, keeping them aligned with business needs. By quantifying outcomes, organizations demonstrate that enablement delivers both cultural and financial value. This reinforces motivation among learners, who see their growth connected directly to improved performance and results. Risk management protects enablement programs from undermining trust. Confidentiality breaches, role confusion, and scope creep are common risks that must be addressed. For example, a mentor serving as a direct manager may create conflicts of interest, reducing candor. Scope creep may turn coaching into therapy, stretching beyond professional expertise. Risk management involves clear policies, escalation paths, and boundaries to prevent these issues. It reassures participants that enablement is safe and professional. Addressing risks explicitly builds credibility, signaling that programs are serious about integrity. It also protects the organization from liability or cultural damage. By managing risks proactively, organizations preserve the conditions under which coaching, mentoring, and training can flourish authentically. Risk management is not just a safeguard but a trust-building mechanism that sustains engagement over time. Sustainability and handover plans ensure that learning sticks when sessions end or people rotate. Without them, gains risk evaporating as individuals move on or attention shifts. Capturing what was learned, updating standards, and embedding practices into workflows preserve value. For example, After a coaching cycle on test automation, lessons may be added to a playbook and integrated into the team's definition of done. Handover plans ensure continuity, so improvements are not tied to one person's presence. Sustainability also involves pacing, balancing enablement with delivery to avoid burnout. By institutionalizing learning, organizations prevent reversion to old habits. Sustainability and handover plans demonstrate that enablement is not episodic but enduring, building capability that outlasts individuals and contexts. They ensure that growth compounds over time, strengthening both team and organizational resilience. Continuous improvement reviews keep enablement programs fresh and relevant. These reviews retire low-impact activities, refresh curricula, and adapt methods as product and team needs evolve. For example, if older training modules no longer reflect current technologies, they are replaced with updated material. Coaching approaches are refined based on feedback, and mentoring programs are adjusted to ensure diversity and inclusivity. Reviews also examine outcomes, ensuring that investments remain aligned with measurable improvements. By making continuous improvement explicit, organizations prevent stagnation and demonstrate that enablement evolves alongside delivery. This responsiveness reinforces motivation, as learners see that their growth is supported by current and relevant practices. Continuous improvement reviews turn enablement into a living system, adaptable and resilient, ensuring that it remains effective across changing contexts and needs. Enablement synthesis emphasizes that the effectiveness of training, coaching, and mentoring lies in choosing the right lever for the right gap. Training transfers knowledge, coaching strengthens in-role performance, and mentoring provides longer horizon guidance. By aligning methods with outcomes, decision criteria, and context signals, organizations maximize impact. Measurement frameworks, contracts, and backlogs make progress visible, while ethical boundaries and risk management protect integrity. Practices like deliberate practice, scaffolding, and observation ensure that learning translates into durable skill. Equity and access commitments broaden participation, while platforms and sustainability plans embed growth into the system. Together, these practices turn enablement from an informal activity into a structured capability-building discipline. The result is reliable performance, resilient teams, and motivated individuals equipped to deliver value with confidence in complex and changing environments. Thanks for tuning in to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, your trusted source for cybersecurity news and insights. Remember to subscribe at baremetalcyber.com so you never miss an update. And visit cyberauthor.me for best-selling cybersecurity books that equip you with expert knowledge. Until next time, stay secure and stay vigilant.